And they were frozen. I thawed them.
You what?
Well, I didn't know what else to do. The crypts in which they were frozen were literally full.
Hello, and we're up to the final episode of Season 1 of Star Trek Next Generation. The episode is The Neutral Zone. Now in this episode, Captain Picard is away at an important conference, maybe learning about alien noses or something, when the Enterprise discovers an ancient space capsule from Earth containing cryogenic tubes. Captain Picard then returns to the Enterprise and orders the ship to the Neutral Zone because of a looming alien threat from the Romulans. Inside the capsules were 3 humans from the 20th century Earth. The original plan for the episode was for the Borg to make their Star Trek debut and for it to be a 2-part story, but this was abandoned due to the 1988 Writers Guild of America strike. Instead, writer Maurice Hurley produced a script in only a day and a half and made it about the Romulans instead of the Borg. This episode marked the debut of the Romulan warbird and the square-shaped Romulan uniforms, which would look this way for the foreseeable future in Star Trek. Mark Alamo, the actor, made his Star Trek debut here as Tibok, a delightful Romulan character. Actor Peter Mark Richman appears in this episode as Ralph Offenhouse, a presumptive and rude man from the 20th century. The actor had signed a 3-appearance deal with Paramount Pictures in 1988, the first of which was this appearance in Star Trek. His second appearance for Paramount was as the annoying teacher Charles McCulloch in Friday the 13th Part 8. In his final part of the contract was for an uncredited role in a disgraceful adult movie, Scumbags and Bumholes. Luckily, all copies of this movie have been destroyed and no evidence of its existence remain, no matter how hard you look. Rick Berman didn't know the difference between photon torpedoes and phasers, and his indifference to these distinctly different things would incur the wrath of the Star Trek fans.
Phaser come out of photon torpedo port in a visual effect. And I certainly didn't know the difference. And we got hundreds of letters. Hundreds.
Some fans would simply send in letters, but the much better fans would turn up at Paramount Studios and demand that Rick come out and apologise to them. Now this happened every day for over 2 weeks, and during this time, Rick Berman actually only came out to address them once. He called them a bunch of weirdos and told them that both phasers and torpedoes are stupid and made up. What he obviously didn't realise, though, is that torpedoes are real and that they are regularly used by the Navy.
So he could go through it all again.
Too afraid to live, too scared to die.
In plain English, the title of the episode is The Neutral Zone, but in other languages it has some surprising differences. In Germany, the episode is titled Die Vitrum Idioten, loosely translated as The Space Idiots. In French, the episode is called Le Désordre de la Galaxie, translated into English as The Mess of the Galaxy. And in Swedish, the episode is called Bog Tarta Neutralia Stora Oran Man, which translates as Bog Tart Neutral Big Ears Men, which is obviously a reference to the Neutral Zone and to the Romulans' ears, although I'm not sure as to why that would get into the episode name. Marina Sirtis' real-world mother would often come to the set during Star Trek Next Generation Series 1, and she was even worse than Lwaxana Troi. She would leave the doors open when it was snowing. She was constantly trying to seduce most of the actors, and just like Lwaxana Troi, she would cause her daughter a degree of embarrassment, but actually was always welcomed on set by Rick Berman, who was always trying to be appeasing to his favourite actress, and throwing out her mother onto the soapy streets would probably make her unhappy. This episode would mark Dr. Crusher's final appearance in Star Trek, and Rick Berman had decided to replace her with a younger model, the divisive Dr. Pulaski. Now in the scene where Dr. Crusher tucks Wesley into bed and kisses him on the mouth goodnight, she was actually only directed to tuck him in and stroke his hair. But a final goodbye to her on-screen son, who she thought she'd never see again, she actually impetuously decided to give him an intimate kiss for the cameras. After filming her final scene, Rick Berman asked her to clear out her locker and leave immediately, but the rest of the team wanted to give her a fond goodbye. They arranged a small party for Gates McSomething after the episode wrapped, which included several types of cheeses, various wines, and a selection of Easter eggs, as this was filmed just before Easter break in 1988. This was also the time when Patrick Stewart started a fight with Lever Burton over Lever's comment about Picard's head looking like a shiny old Easter egg. Worf actor Michael Dorn has had various problems with his mouth gob during the production of Series 1, and now it was time for him to speak up about his future. He had a meeting with Gene Roddenberry asking in return for not having any more accidents involving his mouth. He could perhaps have more lines in the future. Gene took this on board and said that in the next season he could take over as security chief, which would require lots more dramatic exclamations as he shouts each time an enemy ship approaches. He also asked Gene that Worf could be made a Vulcan for Series 2 and not a Klingon, but Gene told him there were two problems with this. Firstly, Klingons don't turn into Vulcans, and secondly, Vulcans wouldn't be working in security, as they'd have a much more intellectual job on the ship than a security role. A Vulcan security chief would be stupid and would be a mistake, said Gene Roddenberry. The character of L.Q. Sonny Clemens was expertly portrayed by character actor Leon Rippey, but there was a host of other actors who wanted the acting position of this character. Men and women alike who answered the acting call included Whoopi Goldberg, Kevin Spacey, Michael Palin, Rustin Parr, Nana Visitor, and serial wig wearer Marky Ramone. Even though Leon Rippey trumped them all to the job, actor Whoopi Goldberg would impress the casting agents so much that she would be asked back shortly later to play what they would describe as mysterious big-hatted magical bar lady, a role that fitted her like a glove. Paramount executive Michael Munday fought hard to get Star Trek Next Generation cancelled at the end of Season 1 because he just didn't understand it in the slightest. As a member of the Paramount board, he would constantly fixate on Star Trek and how it was a massive drain on the damn money. No matter what the subject was in the boardroom, he would always bring up Star Trek Next Generation again and again, using facts like Jonathan Frakes' criminal past and the amount of time that Marina Sirtis demanded in the makeup chair as ammunition against the damn show. Thankfully it wasn't cancelled at this point. That's why if you look into the history of Star Trek The Next Generation, you'll see that there's actually 7 seasons and not just the one. In fact, it was Michael Munday himself that wouldn't last for 7 seasons. 4 seasons later than this, he was smashed to bits by a train, his awful guts being sprayed around like sloppy red ribbons from hell. Actor Mark Alamo, who portrayed the Romulan commander in this episode, was only available for 2 days of shooting, as he was busy filming something more important elsewhere. But Rick Berman worked around these restrictions. He needed to keep Mark happy if he was to coerce him back in the future, as a recurring dictator who gets redemption and then betrays everyone and then goes insane and then gets possessed by an evil alien entity from some cave. In case that was needed, they kept him happy and crammed his scenes into just 2 cruciate days.
Doctor, this seems to be a situation more suited to your talents. I'll leave it with you. I'll be on the bridge.
In a post-episode meeting where the staff and crew would be addressed by Gene Roddenberry and Rick Berman, they were told that the next season would bring along certain changes for each character. Riker was to have a beard to make him look like a big boy. LaForge would be wearing yellow instead of red. Data was to be an inch taller than before and would therefore get specially made orthopedic shoes. There was a consideration for Picard to be promoted to tub captain, a new position that would be somewhere between a captain and an admiral, which would give him 5 pips on his collar. The idea was withdrawn at the last minute though, as not to confuse the audience between the position of tub captain and regular captain. So the idea of a tub captain wouldn't be used for another 2 years. Thanks for checking out my very interesting facts about Star Trek Next Generation episode 26. We've wrapped up on season 1 now, and hopefully we can start to get some very, very damn interesting facts for season 2. My next episode is going to be all about Star Trek the Motion Picture, so thank you very much, and please come back and subscribe if you want. Bye now!